But there are some disturbing trends that we've seen in the past few years. Going back into the Trump administration, we looked at a lot of the nuclear agreements and various agreements that we were in with the Russians. We decided to withdraw from some of those because they weren't living up to them. So if you look at what the Russians may have the capability to do, again, it's still a little bit speculative at this point. There's been a lot of talk about being able to deploy a nuclear weapon from space. That's certainly a possibility. It would violate treaties that they're already in, but the Russians are certainly known for violating treaties. I think what's more concerning, if you look at what their capabilities may be from space as it relates to anti-satellites, that would actually in many ways be more disruptive to our national security, because they would have the ability not only to take out command and control from a military perspective, it would also affect our civilian communications as well. So there's an urgent diplomatic need to
just
address this.
One note of clarification. Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, Marco Rubio from Florida said they have the intelligence in question, and they've been rigorously tracking this issue from the start. Jake Sullivan suggested Michael Turner should have gone public on that. I think here's the larger point. You just mentioned it. If the Russians have capabilities that we don't, shame on us,
Absolutely.
number one. And number two, if you can defend your satellites in this modern technology world, you win.
Well, we're in an arms race with the Chinese and the Russians, and quite frankly, North Koreans, Iranians, others also have. I mean, they can take. We've seen what they can do with cheap drones and swarm and kill our men and women through their proxies. But specifically, look, the Chinese unveiled their version of a hypersonic. There's various. This was during the Biden administration. Various levels of military, assessing how capable that is. But still, they were able to unveil it. So when you look at what the Chinese and the Russians are doing, when you look at their defense spending and their capabilities, they are spending more. We are in a nuclear arms race with them. Our equipment, for the most part, is pretty old and outdated. It needs to be done. And meanwhile, we have problems with our defense industrial base. In this supplemental that everyone's arguing over, one of the things that's in it that's incredibly important is our ability to resupply our own munitions, right? Our own TLAMs. And we're looking at a great deal that the Biden administration did on AUKUS, where we would supply submarines to the Australians, for example, and our own industrial base is screwed.
Right.
To be quite frank,
we were watching you all last night. That's the first thing Peter said. He's like, well, you replenish your own supply first.
That would be nice.
You mentioned China. I just want to talk about these Chinese migrants that are coming across the southern border, and many of them coming from Ecuador. Ecuador, it used to be at the State Department, so I want to ask this. Ecuador doesn't require you to get a visa in order to go to the country. So many of these people who are coming into our country stop in Ecuador first, and then they make the trek up. In Ecuador, inbound tourism from East Asia and the Pacific, check out these numbers. It has gone up to 22,000 in 2022. And then you see what we saw, Griff Jenkins showing us how many Chinese migrants are coming across our southern border. And they've got Toomey suitcases. Like, they are not, they are not desperate people.
I don't own a Toomey suitcase. That would be nice. Expensive brand. It is the fastest growing group of illegal migrants coming over the border. These are mostly fighting age males, right? So it's, we're just kind of asking for it, right? We already know, and you guys have recovered this extensively, the secret police shops, here that the Chinese are doing, their own police stations. We know their nefarious activities on college campuses. We had to, in the Trump administration, we had to shut down the Houston consulate, Chinese consulate, because of the immense spy operation that was happening there. So, the question would be, would the Chinese allow fighting age military American males to come over in droves, the largest and fastest growing group? This wouldn't happen anywhere else. And so it's not just about it being an open border. An open border is a problem. The problem is that we have an undefended border, and we're allowing our enemy to just traverse into the United States, and we have no idea where they're going, what their plans or intentions are.
And that's the point. Thank you, Morgan. It's great to see you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Morgan Ortagus.